And we are live. This is Ring the Bell podcast number 10. I'm here with my co host, Nathan. How are you, buddy?
I'm fine, thank you, mate. You?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. An interesting little weekend of boxing we have to discuss, actually. We've got a huge, the huge English card. And then there's also some very interesting news to come out of it as well, some follow up. So, we can start immediately. We might as well just get right into it. Joshua Buatsi versus Bartolomew Grafka. See this fight?
I did. It
What?
basically consisted of Buatsi using his opponent as a punch bag and
I
target
imagine so.
practice.
Yeah, yeah.
He was putting 4 or 5 punch combinations together throughout the 6 rounds. It was good to see him in a 6 round fight. You know, he got all his shots in. He looked impressive. He looked quick. I think they're going to fast track him
Did he weigh
where
in
they go.
heavy? Because I'm looking him up on BoxRec here, and it says he weighed in at 178 pounds, which is
Yeah,
over the limit.
so it
Yeah,
would have been a
that's
catch right then, wouldn't it? I would have thought.
yeah, that's not good. They need to make sure he's making weight for fights. But yeah, I mean, it's a good win for him. I saw this fight, but I saw it on a really crappy YouTube video, and because Sky take down all the good ones really quick now, and
Yeah.
it was a good fight. He looked impressive, but you are right. This is a sort of level of opposition where it's hard to really judge.
Have
He
you
used,
seen how quick his combinations are?
yeah,
So crisp
he's
and accurate.
Yeah, he's got. I mean, we knew that from his amateurs, though, didn't we? Like, that's the
Mm.
thing is when you've had such a good amateur career, the first five, six, seven, maybe even 8 fights, you'd learn nothing new about that prospect because you've seen all of that stuff at some point in their amateur career. But I'm glad he won. He looked good. Hopefully, we see him in a bigger fight next time.
Slow building process, but he's getting there.
Sure, sure. Now, this next fight. This is a real interesting one. I did see this. Morgan Jones versus Mose Wanamatagi Jr. Uh, I thought Morgan Jones was winning this fight,
He
right?
was
Like, yeah, and he got stopped with 12 seconds to go in the fight.
harsh.
I can't actually. Oh, actually, it says time 2:52, which actually means 8 seconds left in the fight, not even 12. I really think to stop him in such a way was really stupid. Like, I don't think you should ever stop a fight with 10 seconds left unless the guy is
Pathetic.
out cold. And I don't think he was out cold, Morgan Jones. I think he could have lasted 8 seconds.
He could have
So
taken another 20 seconds worth of punishment. I
yeah,
don't know why the hell they stopped it.
he could have taken a knee and still won on points possibly. So
Stupid
it
night for referees, wasn't it, really? I
it was a
think
bad
refereeing.
night. It was a bad night for refereeing. I think they should do the rematch. I think Morgan Jones could probably beat him. I think it was a good fight. Well done to, Mose One Matagi. It's not his fault the ref stopped it. He did everything he had to do, and it was a good win for him. So,
It'd
but I
piss you
do
off if
think,
you were 12-0, wouldn't it? It'd piss you off.
yeah, I do think Morgan Jones can get that win back, though. So it is an odd one, a very peculiar one. I don't
But he
like
was
to see
dominating the fight.
fights. I agree. I don't need. I know. I
He
don't
was
like
dominant.
to see fights stopped in the last 10 seconds. I think there should be a
Do you know what
rule
made me laugh?
against it.
He knocked him down at the beginning of that first 30 seconds of the round.
Yeah, yeah,
It
Morgan
was weird.
Jones. Yeah, it was a. That's why I think he should have taken a knee because it
Yeah.
if he'd have taken a knee, he would have got the 8 count, and then the fight would have been over. So maybe he'll learn that from experience. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. Joe Cordina versus Hakim Ben Ali. This was a good
Didn't
little
watch
fight.
this fight.
Oh, it was a good little fight. It was easy for Joe Cordina, but he does fight with his hands a bit low at times. But it's because he doesn't take this level of opposition all that seriously. I feel. Um, he won by TKO in the third round, and it was a good stoppage. But you know, the guy was 19-5, but he hadn't really beaten anyone. So it's hard to really judge. But it's a good win. When you start beating opponents with a winning record, that looks good. That looks good.
He's a good fighter, Cordina.
He is indeed. I'm impressed with him. They don't need to slow track him as much as the other guys. You know, he's it's just one of those fighters where you can tell he really, especially for the weight class, he carries a decent amount of power, and he's got pretty much all the skills you need to have in the book. So yeah, I'm excited for Joe Cordina's next fight. It was a good win, but it wasn't anything special yet. I'm just excited to see where he goes next, really.
Okay.
We'll move on
So
to. Oh, no, yeah, go on. If you've got more to say on it, that would be good.
No,
Not really.
because I didn't see the fight.
Ah, right, okay. Well, Anthony Crolla fought Edson Ramirez. This wasn't the most exciting fight. It was a pretty dominant win for Crolla. His face got busted up. It was a bit of a war at times, but it was a fairly. Crolla did what I expected and won a wide points decision. That's kind of how to sum this fight up. Did you see this one?
I did.
Yeah.
And he made a fight that should have been easy very hard for himself.
He did
Like
he did, but that's Crolla for you. He won. If you look at the scorecards, it was 100 to 91, 100 to 90, 98 to 92. So he won it pretty wide. But I do agree with you. Even though he won the rounds, they were closer than they needed to be because Crolla likes a bit of a scrap, doesn't he?
I like watching him because he's exciting. He's never in a boring fight.
No, he has a war. He's English. He's England's Mexican warrior. You know he's going to go in there and fight and get hit and hit back. He is exciting, I agree. It was a good enough win. You know, it's a good comeback win. He had been out of the ring a little while, hadn't he? And so, yeah, it's late 2017 that he beat Ricky Burns. So, yeah, it's good to come back with a decent enough win, and they'll look to put him in a big fight next, I reckon. Do you think they're going to make the Luke Campbell fight for Anthony Crolla?
Yeah, I think they are. The reason I say this is because I think Campbell's team will deem it as an easy fight in their heads. That's what I think. That's the impression I get. But it'll be anything far from it.
Yeah, it'll be a tough fight, but I do think Luke Campbell has the edge on him.
You can see Campbell going down this fight, can't you? Because he always goes down quite a lot, Campbell. But he always gets back up again.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because he went down to Mendy, which was weird and bad. But then the only other person who's knocked him down is Linares, right?
Yeah.
And Linares is pretty good. So it's like...
Corolla's tougher than Campbell. He could take a lot more punishment.
Possibly. But he's also taken a lot more punishment than Campbell so far. And he's the older man, isn't he? So
Campbell will just walk him down and either stop him or get a points win.
I feel it's a pretty close fight. I feel like Crolla could stop him, but if he stops him, it's by targeting the body all fight. Because Campbell's a tall lightweight, so you might be able to tag him up there. But if Campbell wins, it's probably by stoppage. I think he's more powerful than Crolla.
No, definitely.
Good fight, though. I'd be interested to see it. The only thing is, the loser of that fight is fucked for a while. They got a hard road to come back, especially if it's Luke Campbell. If Crolla loses, it's sort of like, yeah, well, he can retire. Exactly. But if Luke Campbell loses that fight, it's a real blow for him. So I don't know about it. Maybe, though. It is a good fight.
You don't have a sneaky feeling that somebody by the name, some Scottish chap by the name of Ricky Burns will sneak in there?
Sneak in and fight Campbell?
For a vacant. It wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No. It's not anything's possible in boxing, but
I hope not.
It would be a bit of a sad one. Yeah, it would be a sad one. But as I say, this was a good win for Crolla. It wasn't anything special, but it was what was expected and what was needed. So we will move on to, this was a good little fight, you know, Josh Kelly versus Carlos Molina. I actually thought the judges had this one a little bit wider than it really should have been. But that's not really a massive criticism of Josh Kelly. He did win the fight and he won it, I don't know, probably 6-4, 7-3. Something like that. I thought Molina did take rounds off him. at points. But Molina's a crafty old veteran, and that was always going to be likely. So it was a really good win for Josh Kelly in his fifth fight, wasn't it? So it's very
For a
impressive.
former world champion in only fifth fight, that's crazy, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, yeah, and like I didn't think, like I say, I think the judges were a tiny bit wide, but he still won the fight quite convincingly, Josh Kelly. So I was impressed by that. I was. It's a good win. He won rounds off Molina, but obviously, you are going to lose some rounds to somebody as good as Molina, aren't you? That's kind of a given. So it was really impressive that he got the win in that one, actually.
How far is he from a world title shot, realistically? Another 5 fights away?
5 fights like that, yeah, 5 sort of, progressively harder fights in that sort of style, then yeah, he probably might be. But we do have to remember that that's his first 10 rounder. It's his first time he's gone the distance over 10 rounds. So he's still got a lot of learning to do. But him and Cordina are WBA international champions right now. And so you would have to think they're not, in terms of the rankings, they're probably not that far away from a world title anyway.
The thing I like about Josh, he's so talented,
He is. But he needs to stop fighting with his hands down low. It's great. It looks good. It's fun to watch. But you do that against Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, even maybe Sean Porter. They'll tag you one and it will hurt. So you don't want to keep, he fights with that shimmy style a little bit, doesn't he? And it looks great. But I don't want to see him do that in world title fights. That will get his head taken off.
He's in a tough division, though. That tough division, that's such a tough division.
It is indeed. That's what I mean. Don't fight with your hands down low. I mean, Naz used to do it, but Naz got his head taken off. He got his head taken off doing that by the end.
Naz was a special talent.
True, exactly. And he was a smaller guy, and he could afford to just rely on movement. Josh Kelly is going to get hit in his career, and I'd like to see him use more than just his reflexes as a defense. That's the one criticism.
But it's a shame there's no.
Yeah, sorry, you first.
Vacant title. There's no vacant or easy world titles for him to win.
No, but I mean, Errol Spence is talking about moving up to 154 to fight Brook, isn't he? So maybe that IBF might become vacant again. There's, give it, by the time Josh Kelly's ready for a world title, some of those champions might have moved up anyway.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Right. Now we are coming on to, so I'm going to do the fights in order. I think Ryan Burnett's fight will cover next because this was an odd fight, actually. I really didn't enjoy this fight, and I found out. Well, did you know that Parahay? I can't even say this guy's name. Yonfres Parajo. He broke his hand in round 2.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he broke his hand in round 2, and that's why he wasn't. That's why it was a dull fight for the rest of the fight. Oh. Yeah. It's really annoying, isn't it? Like, he broke his hand in round 2. It was a good little scrap for the first. While it started, it was good, and then he must have bust up his hand, and then he did nothing really. I mean, he did win a couple of rounds, I felt, but not many rounds. The judges gave it a bit wide. The 120, 108 scorecards. I don't really see that. I felt it was probably more like 118, 110. That's probably right.
For me, the only highlight of this fight was the 5th round was when Burnett stood on the back of the ropes and said, "Come on."
Yeah, that was funny. But that was because, and now we know, Parajo had a broken hand, so that's why he wasn't engaging. I feel sorry for him a bit because that was his big. Imagine you work all your life to get your world title shot, and then you break your hand at the start of the fight. That's a proper bummer, that is. But yeah. Good win for Ryan Burnett. It was, even though it was a boring fight. Hopefully, we see him in a much better fight next time out.
Praise, isn't it?
It's the luck of the draw with boxing. That can happen. You can set up the biggest, most exciting fight in the world, and then it fails to deliver. Or you can set up a fight like, do you remember Smile Williams? Nobody even knew who they were really, but it was 2 cracking fights. So yeah, you can just get the luck of
When
the draw
looking at
like that.
Burnett, he's a world class fighter, but he's never going to be an elite level fighter. He's operating on the level below the Tetes, a couple of levels below that.
I think he's a level below Tete. I think he's a very, very skillful boxer. I think the problem is he's so slight. He's not a very big man. Even like Tete could probably move up to super bantamweight easily. Ryan Burnett would probably struggle at super bantamweight.
Could you imagine him
too
fighting
young.
McDonald? How tall is Burnett?
McDonald,
5'4"?
yeah, but Burnett's 5'4", exactly. He's a midget, mate. And McDonald's 5'10" or 5'11", and so it would be
McDonald, I
outrageous.
think, would just, I don't know if McDonald would beat him. I wouldn't have thought he would, but
No,
he might have an advantage.
McDonald would beat him just because it's a 7-inch. No, it's like a 6-inch height advantage, and that's
Crazy,
like
but I still think Burnett's more talented in terms of what he is.
at that point though. It doesn't really matter when you're half a foot taller and you've got a good long jab. You can beat a much more talented opponent than yourself just because of that. So I mean, I wouldn't. If I was Ryan Burnett, I'd stay well away from that fight because
But
he's just too
Manny
big.
Pacquiao is an exception to the rule.
Yeah, because he's an inside fighter. The problem is Burnett's a bit of a Frampton style sniper. He likes to fight at range, and yet he's 5'4". So he's got a bit of a problem on that front. He does it well against certain guys, but I think he'd struggle against the McDonald's, the Tetes. They're rangy guys for that weight class. So I do worry for him. It is a bit of a shame too that he's had to drop his IBF title. I think that's a real bummer.
Politics for you, man.
Well, what it means is that Ryan Burnett has got more excuses not to fight Tete because he's going to just say, I want my IBF title back. So it's a bit of a bummer. That is what they're going to go for next, is they'll try and get that title back.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be an easy
like
fight. Whoever gets it is not on Burnett's level, in my opinion. So
whoever gets it will probably be that Paul Butler or Lee Haskins.
Oh my God! I fucking pray to God not. That would.
And because have you noticed a succession of lower British level guys have won that IBF belt?
Yeah. Jamie McDonald could well fight Burnett at some point, but like I say, but McDonald's too tall for Burnett. It's a fucking crazy height difference. It's weird. If you go on the bantamweight world rankings, Jamie McDonald's number 1 in the world.
I know.
Ryan Burnett's number 2. Tete's number 3. Well, McDonald's got the best wins, I think.
No, it's Fox.
No. If you go on his record, Solis, Vargas, Kameda twice. No, you have to say that by his record currently, and if he beats Inoue, then he is definitely the number 1 in the world.
But in Britain, I mean, we've got, like I say, we've got McDonald, we've got Burnett, we've got Butler, we've got Haskins, Hall. We've got 5 people who won world titles. Do you know what I mean? At one time or another.
Sure, but I think McDonald and Burnett are the pick of the bunch.
Oh, they're far better, superior to anything Butler.
Yeah. They're the pick of the bunch for sure. But I do wonder about Burnett. I wonder if he could make a lower weight class because 5'4". I mean, McDonald's 5'10". Lee Haskins is
flyweight. Yeah, he probably could.
He probably could make it. When I'm looking at the world rankings here, right?
Him and Kalajafai would be a good fight.
Not a bad fight. Tete's 5'9", so he's got 5 inches on Burnett.
Jesus.
Yeah, Omar Andres Navarez is ranked quite highly, and he's pretty short. He's a midget too. But there's a lot of tall guys in that division at the moment.
Looking at the ratings, I'll tell you what, he would have better fights at super flyweight than he would at bantamweight. Because you've got Yafai, you've got Charlie Edwards, you've got Gonzalez, Ring Vasai. Could you imagine him fighting Ring Saw Vasai? It'd be a great fight, wouldn't it?
That would be a great fight. Burnett versus Soaring Versailles. I think Burnett would
Maybe so.
probably have some. He'd have a chance in that fight. I think he'd be the bigger. He wouldn't be the bigger guy in terms of height, but because he'd be coming down from a higher weight class, he might have some of the power. So
So really, he would benefit going down to super flyweight, wouldn't he? Really, I think.
sure, but I think the other problem is the money's at bantamweight, isn't it, right now? So,
Yeah.
well, it's at both. I mean, if you were to fight Soaring Visai or Estrada, yeah, I mean, there's good fights for him at both. I would always suggest you should fight at the lowest weight class possible until you have to move up, especially when you've got 5'10", 5'9" guys in the same division as you. That's brutal.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is a bit crazy. It has to be said. Has to be said. Right. Well, that's pretty much all that can be said for Ryan Burnett. Now we move on to a much sadder affair. Jesus Christ,
Great fight, though.
It was a great fight, and it was probably David Price's best performance in years and years and years. The fact that he actually wobbled Povetkin and essentially got a knockdown. It had I was watching the whole card in a bar, and everybody wanted David Price to win. Like everybody went mental when he fucking walloped Povetkin, and Povetkin was stumbling all over the place. It was great.
Start from the beginning.
Yeah.
The first 2 rounds, nothing happened. Both fighters were being dull.
Yeah.
Then the third round, out of nowhere, Povetkin knocks Price down. Was it a right hand or a left hand?
It was an overhand right. Yeah.
Overhand right.
Yeah.
What a knockdown! And Price, when he slammed the canvas, I thought, God, he really wants this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
The third round, there was about 10 seconds left. He wobbled Povetkin. Povetkin went in the ropes.
And
could you imagine what would have happened if there'd been another 30 seconds in that round?
Oh, man, I think Price might have won. But here's the problem with Price. After he took that knockdown in round 3, it fired up his adrenaline so much. And what that caused was for Price to burn through the rest of his energy quickly. And so he tried to take Povetkin out of there, and he couldn't do it. And then he got caught sleeping. His defenses slipped for a split second in round 5, and he got walloped. And he was pretty much unconscious on his feet, and he got walloped again. And so he was out cold.
He put on a great performance.
Yeah, I actually think he's done enough in this fight to warrant coming back at sort of Commonwealth or British level. Yeah, I think that would be the right thing to do.
Hasn't gone down. His stock
hasn't gone down.
That's raised his stock.
Everybody expected him to get knocked out. Nobody expected him to even wobble Povetkin, and he did it. So it is sad.
We said he wouldn't get out the first round, didn't we? And how wrong.
Well, I mean, he almost looked like he didn't get out of the third round, to be fair. So we weren't that wrong. The problem with Price is he can knock any man out on the planet. We all know this, and he's exciting to watch. But you fucking poke him on his chin, and it's over. And I'm not saying Povetkin's got no power. Obviously, Povetkin isn't just poking him, but David Price has been knocked out by guys who don't necessarily carry the most power. Christian Hamer springs to mind. And so if Christian Hamer can knock you out, Povetkin can definitely knock you out. That's a fact. So
could you imagine if Dave Allen was to fight Price? Price would knock him out, wouldn't he? I believe that now.
I don't know. Maybe. The problem is David Price is still a lottery ticket because either he's going to land or he's going to get landed on. And
why couldn't he do that against Solowski? My God,
I don't know. But he might have been over. You're neglecting that part of it. The reason Price didn't trade in the Sokolowski fight is because if he lost to Sokolowski, his career was done. Yeah. So that's why he risked it in this fight because he had nothing to lose. That's got a lot to do with it.
Now is have a couple of easy fights, then getting there with a.
Go for the
I mean,
British.
I don't think he'll beat Chisora, do you?
No, but
Could do.
he'd have a great fight with Huey Fury because
Oh, that'd be great.
Huey Fury's not likely to knock him out because he's not powerful. He could
But
do
he'll just run out of gas anyway.
late in the fight, maybe, yeah, but it would go a few rounds. And you've got that whole previous beef with Tyson Fury. So I think they should probably look to do something like that for the British. It'd be a good fight because Huey's definitely going to beat Sexton for the British, isn't he?
I would like to see Joe Joyce fight David Price. I know that's a mismatch. I know it's a mismatch.
David Price that should be David Price's final fight when he's looking for a retirement check. Yeah, because he's gonna get beat in that one.
I think he should fight some more Solowoski type people, then have a fight against Chisora, and then we'll take it from there. And if he I reckon he could knock Chisora out.
Chisora Price would be interesting for sure, but Chisora's all wrong for him because Chisora will make him work, and if David Price has to work on the back foot too much, he'll gas quickly. So it's
I could see Chisora knocking him out. But,
I could see it going both ways. That's what's so interesting about David Price. That's why people still want to watch him fight because
I want to see more.
He could knock you out, but you could knock him out. The only thing I would say is if he takes a couple more heavy knockouts like that, I want to see him retire no matter what because you shouldn't take too many hellacious knockouts before your
Wouldn't it be great just
retirement.
To see him have a couple of easy fights, then fight a Lenroy Thomas, win a title?
That'd be a good fight too, because Lenroy Thomas isn't a powerhouse, but
they need to keep him at the Solowoski, Dave Allen, Lenroy Thomas level.
For now, yeah, maybe he'll get one more big fight. You never know,
but he definitely needs a couple of easy fights, like we said.
Would you put him in against the winner of Hay Bellew?
I don't know. There's a chance.
Bellew wouldn't fight him though, if I'm correct.
Because he's friends. They're like David Hay.
There's
a chance David Hay. But we're talking about a fighter with no stamina, no chin. Then we've got a fighter
with no ankle and no arm.
So who do you think would win that fight? You'd have to pick Hay to win it, wouldn't you?
I'd flip a coin, man.
Be close, wouldn't it?
I'd flip a coin on the fight.
Hay would win it. I think he'd knock Price out.
I think I'd have to flip a coin on Hay even getting into the ring, but I know what you mean. If a fit Hay, if a fit Hay got into the ring against David Price, you'd have to pick Hay, but you just never know.
Would have been able to beat Price, I reckon.
Maybe.
But David Hay hasn't gone that downhill. He's not on that. Is he on the same level as Price? I don't think he is.
He's not on the same. He's not on the same level as Price, but the Price carries the power, and that's what it always is about.
I just think Hay would be too smart for him. Hay would catch him or something. I think Bellew would beat Price as well.
I personally agree with both of those, but as you know, if we're putting Price in against Lenroy Thomas or against Huey Fury or Dave Allen, then he's probably got to be able to beat the likes of Bellew, who's not really a heavyweight. I mean,
but
you do worry about.
As bad as Dave Allen, is he? Really?
But Dave Allen's a lot bigger.
He is, but even Hay, I reckon, would beat Dave Allen. I'm being honest.
I agree at this current moment in time, but if you go back and watch the Dave Allen that fought Jason Gavin, and if you could
he was good.
If you could bring him back somehow, then I think it would be a bit of a different story. But I do agree with you in general.
When you put this into perspective, we're looking at a guy at English level, Dave Allen, who's probably paid 50 grand a fight. And then you look at David Hayes, paid 4 million to have a fight who's probably not a fighter, who's probably not even British level. When you look at it compared to Huey Fury and people like that and Joe Joyce. It's crazy, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
It's the name value. Once you acquire a name, look at Roy Jones Jr. He could announce a comeback fight tomorrow and he'd still sell tickets and some TV company would still buy it.
If we put it in perspective, there's no way that Tony Bellew or David Hay would beat Huey Fury for the British title. So then
No,
maybe, you know,
not right now. Want I wouldn't want to put either. They're the wrong style for Huey because Huey is very fast and slick, and
he's a monster.
Hay
6'6".
is Hay is aging, and Bellew has never been fast, and so you would expect Huey to be faster than them and bigger than them, and it would be a nightmare.
He'd destroy them bit by bit.
I would guess so, but I think Hay of old versus Huey Fury would have been a great fight.
I think Hay of old would have won by the skin of his teeth.
I think it would have been a great fight. I never liked
But
Cool.
people put Fury in a bad light, which we'll come to when we talk about our next fight, which we'll talk.
Sure, which we can move on to right about now. Everybody knows what this one is going to be. This is obvious. Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker for the IBF, IBO, WBA, and WBO World Heavyweight titles. All of them now belong around the waist of one man, Anthony Joshua. What did you make of this fight? We'll go to your opinion on it first.
As a fight fan, he was hard to watch, but as a boxing connoisseur for many years, I thought it was the right game plan. He put on a good performance.
That's pretty much, I concur with that entirely. It wasn't the Anthony Joshua of old. It wasn't, I'm going to blast this guy out of here. It wasn't exciting in many ways. It wasn't thrilling. But it was the perfect game plan. He tied Joseph Parker up with underhooks. He was using the uppercut off very, very I think I sent you a video of it. There was some very, very technical things he was doing in there. The one big complaint I've seen everybody have, and I agree entirely, is the referee did a terrible, terrible job of controlling the action on the inside. In fact, he just didn't let them fight on the inside very much at all, which a lot of people think favours Anthony Joshua, but I actually disagree slightly. I think Anthony Joshua was, if you watched his uppercut on the inside, he landed it a few times, and it looked far more devastating than anything Parker did on the inside. But that being said, the referee was still, he should have let them fight a bit more. When you've got one arm free, you're supposed to box on. That's the rules. You're not supposed to jump in every time they get tied up a little bit. That's not boxing. So it was frustrating. Did you agree with that as well about the referee?
I thought the referee ruined the fight. Were we watching a Vladimir Klitschko?
That's it. That's the one. Were we watching Hatton Mayweather? That's the one. It did feel like it was being purposefully done.
Is it true that Vladimir Klitschko helped Anthony Joshua train for this fight?
Yeah.
So I heard some. Why is he fighting like Klitschko? I don't understand. He doesn't need to fight like Klitschko. Obviously,
he does. He does. He does. He absolutely does. And I'll tell you why. If you go into a fight with Wilder and at any moment you decide to lower your hands to trade, you've lost the fight. You've made a big, big mistake. You've not necessarily lost the fight, but you are close to losing the fight if Wilder lands. And so the style he fought against Parker on the weekend was the exact fight he will have to use to beat Wilder. Establish the jab, stay at range, tie him up on the inside, and use big, heavy uppercuts whilst breaking the clinch. It was Vladimir Klitschko plus. I honestly think people are going to go back and look at this fight.
Where Klitschko uses this jab and just jab, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
Joshua's got more to his game.
That's what I mean. He throws the rights, he throws the lead hook, he also throws the uppercuts. Them uppercuts on the inside are a direct lesson from Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko's either taken him into the gym and shown him that, or Anthony's been studying how Vlad used to tie people up.
You know, I'm glad Vlad is working with him.
Yeah, sure. For sure. I also think it's very smart from Anthony Joshua. We're talking about probably the longest reigning heavyweight champion, certainly alive today. we're talking about one of the most dominant forces in boxing history. So anything you can learn from him is worth taking on board for sure. And I think it did show in this fight. He fought a very different style than what most fans are accustomed to
But
seeing.
Parker, I've got more respect for Parker now after that fight than what I had before. He
Don't
can
know.
go. He's a good fighter. You know, obviously he ran out of ideas because Joshua was just too smart. But the
Joshua
rounds were tight. You know, the rounds
Joshua
were tight.
was some of the rounds were tight, and I felt the scorecards didn't
We're wrong.
do any favour to Parker. I felt maybe Parker won 3 rounds, 4 rounds
What
at
was
a
it?
push.
Was it 119, 109? Some of the score.
Yeah, 118, 110, 119, 109, 118,
That's
110.
harsh.
I
Harsh.
felt it
Harsh
was
score.
117. Yeah, it's close. It was close. It's a weird one. Um, Parker got that luck in the Huey Fury fight. Many could argue
Parker
too.
had two opponents. He had the referee and the judges. That's he was fighting two people.
You could
The
argue
ref
that.
didn't help.
I don't
So
think
it
the
was
ref
Joshua.
helped. I don't think the ref helped either guy at the end of the day. It's
Where
like
does
when
Povetkin come from?
I
I've never
can't.
heard of that in my pick before.
No, Giuseppe Quattrioni. It sounds like he's
Never heard of
Italian.
him.
If your name's Giuseppe, you're probably Italian. That's just a fact of life. Yeah, he's from Italy. I prefer it when they use who's the really big guy that usually does the heavyweight championship
Tony
fights?
Williams.
That's the guy. I like him for a heavyweight fight because he's big, and the fighters don't fuck with him too much. They sort of just listen to him. So
For me, next for Parker, he needs to go back to the drawing board, change trainers, and look for a different route.
for me, you were saying you respect him more after this fight. I don't know. I he
A
didn't
little
get
bit.
knocked out, and he didn't do anything bad. But he said he was coming here to test AJ's chin and knock him out. And he didn't come on the front foot, he went on the back foot and he didn't try and test AJ's chin. He tried to keep his own protected. And so, in that sense, it's like this is your shot. This is your shot to change boxing forever. And I feel like he left it in the ring a little bit. I feel he could have done quite a bit more. That being said, AJ was very good. He's too strong, too big, and Joseph Parker seemed scared of the power. But man, for me, if you get into a world title fight like that, I mean, is Joseph Parker going to get another shot to win 4 belts in one go?
No, but
So
I reckon
you
he'll get
either
another.
he'll get another title shot, but in that sort of fight with that much on the line, sure, like AJ's not got to do nothing. The pressure's not on him. He's the champion in his hometown. Surely Parker's got to go out on his shield and try and do something in the final round. He didn't really. He looked like he was going to get stopped.
It was a
So,
strange fight. I mean, I don't want to see a rematch.
no, please no, definitely not. It was decisive. That was a decisive fight. A rematch could come maybe in a few years. You know what I mean?
Do you
Maybe
sometimes think this fight has happened a little bit too early? Sometimes when you look at the
this one,
situation.
this one in particular, yes, I think so. I think Parker needed to fight a couple more guys. He needed a Dillian White or an Ortiz or he needed one elite name because Joshua had Vladimir, obviously, and Parker just didn't really have that experience yet, I would say. I'd say it could happen again this fight, but it would be much further down the line. Parker needs some big wins and he needs to show something quite different for me to think he could beat Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I say, Parker has got the experience now. He'll come back and he'll be stronger for it. The loss.
I think so. I think he's the kind of guy who will be. I hope you're right about the trainer. I don't think Kevin Barry can do any more for him. I think he needs a proper. I think he needs to go and spend time in America and spar over there with the big guys because how many sparring partners can you really get in New Zealand?
very limited. But he's done well to get to the level he got to
Oh, I
the World
agree.
200.
Not many New Zealanders will ever, not many Kiwis, Samoans, whatever ethnicity he wants to claim, will ever get into a fight with 4 titles on the line in the heavyweight
You know,
division.
we don't know for sure.
I doubt it. It's a small country, and it's got a small boxing population. This is like a once in 100, 200 year sort of thing for New Zealand. And so you do have to give him credit. He has done very well to get where he has.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. So what a great fight in the end. A lot of people were annoyed with it. A lot of people thought it was a bit boring, a bit dull. I can agree with all of those things, but it's a unification fight. There's never been any more pressure on AJ, and so he boxed the right way, and it's also very promising for future fights. He now has more than one way of winning a fight. We know he can win on points. It's good to know.
I mean, for me, Joshua has to get that fight with Wilder in the next year or so. But I don't
I
think Wilder wants to fight, personally.
I think it's a bit of 50-50. So what's happening right
Both
now?
don't.
I think they both want it, but I think there's just some weird stuff going on. So what's happened is Deontay Wilder, God love him, he's had years and years to go after world titles and unification fights. And as soon as AJ fights Parker, he tried to take all the shine off that unification fight by saying, well, no, I'm the real champion. Why aren't you fighting me? It's like, dude, you've had years to go with. Like, Parker's had that belt for a while now. You could have easily brought him over to America for not that much money and gotten the title off him if you felt you were good enough. So Wilder's made a bit of a fool of himself on that front, but Eddie Hearn is also playing into their hands a little bit. I think he just needs to stop talking about Wilder until he wants to make the fight. Because every time he mentions, like, oh, yeah, but we might have mandatories and we've got to do this, it just makes people, American fans particularly, go, he doesn't want the fight. He's trying to delay it. Now, obviously, we've seen that Pulev will be fighting Dillian White for the
Do we really have to
IBF eliminator. I don't think we will see it. I think Pulev will turn it down.
Pulev has other opportunities, like with the WBA, he's high ranked with them as well.
So. It doesn't really matter though, does it? Because AJ's the champion. He has been mandatory for AJ's belt 2 times, and both times he has declined the fight. So why would these governing bodies keep offering him the AJ fight when Pulev clearly?
They're probably thinking that, if Joshua doesn't take this fight, we could strip him. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise you.
But he will take the Pulev fight. Quite comfortable. I think he'd take the Pulev fight and he'd beat Pulev quite comfortably. I don't think AJ's scared of Pulev. I think Pulev has ducked that fight twice.
He's scared of getting beat again.
Sure, and he'll lose his high ranking. But the problem is, when your high ranking is to get a title shot, and you don't want a shot at the guy who holds all the titles, got a bit of a fucking problem there, because you're just keeping a position fucking hostage. I don't want to see Pulev made mandatory again if he rejects the fight again. It's so dumb.
There's no way Joshua can keep all those belts if he doesn't fight Wilder. Even if he did win all the belts, there's a chance they could take some of them off him. But they won't because he's a cash cow.
Well, the problem is the WBA are going to order Povetkin mandatory soon, and the WBC are going to order White versus Pulev winner. Sorry, the IBF are going to do White versus Pulev winner. And so it's fucking crazy. The whole situation is fucking crazy. It's hard to know exactly what to say about it other than it is unlikely anyone can keep all 4 belts for too long. And so I agree. The best thing to do is to fight Wilder as soon as possible, really. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to get caught up in mandatory hell and you're going to have to give up one belt and you'll make the Wilder fight not as important.
Yeah, I just think the governing bodies need to sort their shit out and make their mind who they
Yeah, but
actually
I
want
mean,
to challenge.
look at what they did to Ryan Burnett.
Yeah,
They,
but Ryan Burnett's isn't a money making star like Joshua, is he?
he not the same level, but for that weight class, yes. I mean, not many people in that weight class sell out home arenas, and he sells out Belfast, doesn't he? So you you'd have to say Ryan. I don't know if he sells it out, but he certainly does a good amount of tickets. Anyway, you'd have to say it is weird that when a champion wins two belts, those two governing bodies don't get together and say, right, you issue your mandatory this month and we'll issue it 6 months later. I mean, that's not hard for two governing bodies to do, is it?
I think the IBF should see what happens with Joshua and Wilder. If there's a mandatory, if there's, I mean, a unification, they should let that go ahead and make an interim fight between Pulev or White or whoever else they've got in the front. Between the other two contenders, make an interim IBF.
That's the thing, isn't
I don't like
it?
to use the word interim, but it's going to happen.
You can't have an interim whilst there's an active champion, though, in my opinion.
But they do sometimes. I mean, we've seen it happen so many times, haven't
we? Yes and no. Usually, interim is reserved for when someone is sick, injured, or cannot defend the belt. But it has. You are right. It has happened. I just prefer it.
Not... got the right idea.
Sometimes. The champion in emeritus or whatever it is. That's a good status. I like it, but yeah, I don't want to add an interim belt to the heavyweight picture.
Another news came up the other day. Fight between Manuel Char and Fresequendo.
Yeah,
it's been set for a date. If you go on BoxRec, I think there's a date set for it next month.
Yeah, you sent me this article. I've actually. So, oh no! Not I haven't got the article up, but
then there's something about that the Charm, the WBA could strip Char if he doesn't go ahead with this fight, and then we're looking for a challenger. So then Dillian White could go in that direction, couldn't he? He could go in a completely different direction. Which I'd rather see him go the WBO route. Sorry, the WBA route personally.
Yeah,
so
man.
He can win an easy world title, and then he can go to the Joshua's.
He should go for the Fresequendo Char winner, and
that's
then,
what I think. And then he's got a bet, and he's got a bargain.
And then he could probably get a unification with Wilder.
Well, yeah, that would make sense. He would make big money, but then or he could just go straight for Joshua, have an easy defense, then go straight for Joshua, because obviously if he's
he's going to be number one in IBF anyway soon. So,
but even if he did go the WBA route, he could go to the Joshua fight with a bargaining chip. Well, it wouldn't be a bargaining chip, but at least he goes into it as a champion. Or even the Wilder and make big money. so the Joshua fight is the only big way for him to make major money.
If he had the WBA regular and the WB, if whoever gets the WBA regular and the WBC will be able to get a bigger percentage in the AJ fight for sure.
I mean, we had the situation when Andre Ward was WBA champion and Carl Froch unified with Kessler for the WBA regular title.
That was weird.
It was very strange.
Yeah, but it could happen. It could happen this time because I imagine eventually the WBA regular will get sucked up into the WBA super by whoever wins all the belts. Because someone is going to collect all of them in this era. Don't know who it's going to be. I predict it will be AJ, but it could just as easily be Wilder with one punch. So,
yeah, you know what? It's all obviously it's all speculation. We've got some great fights.
I can't wait.
Let's just be excited the fact that we've actually got some decent.
For sure, man. Oh, 100%. We've got Povetkin White. We've got possibly Pulev White. You've got Wilder versus AJ. You could even do how about Parker versus White?
Yeah, it'd be a good fight, but I'd still pick Parker to win.
Yeah, but it's close. Like there's all I mean is there's some great 50-50 matchups out there in the
One
heavyweight
thing we
division.
didn't mention was I was going to mention was a certain Fury. This puts Fury in a good light, doesn't
In many ways, yes, I
it? It
suppose
does.
so, because yeah, I mean, you would argue that it was not. See, my personal opinion is Huey won that fight 7-5 in a very close
Yeah,
fight. A lot of people
but could you
disagree.
imagine how frustrating it would be for Joshua to fight Fury? He'd be frustrated as hell. That would be a one close fight. I
It
know
would
people could
be,
laugh,
but I would give Huey another 2 years to develop man
but
strength and power before I did that,
but,
because Huey
but
is
Fury,
still
yeah,
lacking a powerful punch.
he is. But people forget he's only 24, 20, is it 23 years
I
old?
know, which is very
Yeah,
young
and
for a
he's gonna
heavyweight.
get better. So
Oh, I agree.
this loss he had is only going to make him in 5 years' time. I think he'll be wearing a world title, or or fought a couple more times. That's what I believe. He's going
I
to get better.
I don't disagree. I just think he needs that man strength. When he's 28, 29, that's when I'd look to put him.
He's going to be a world class fighter.
That's when I'd
Imagine what he's doing now.
yeah, that's when I'd look to put him in with the guys who are really strong. For now, I
But
would
when I look at,
box him against the
I think,
likes of Bryant Jennings, Malik Scott, someone like that.
but Fury's good enough. I mean, when I looked at the performance, I think, what's Tyson Fury going to do to Anthony Joshua? I'm not being funny. He'll eat him for breakfast if he's the old Tyson Fury. He really will.
uh he ate Vlad for breakfast, and if AJ has stolen Vlad's style, then sure, I agree. But of
Fury will kill him.
course, there is the opposite side that AJ can put you on the ropes
Carry the
and
pack. Yeah,
throw a 20
and knock
punch
you out.
combination. And so maybe he would fight completely differently against Fury than he would against Parker. So that's the one thing I'd say to that is he probably wouldn't fight that style against Fury. I wouldn't.
It's all, but it would be a very close fight. It would be closer than the Parker fight. It'd be really
Yeah, it would be similar to Vladimir versus Tyson in my opinion, because that's what AJ has adopted, that sort of
But we don't know how
stand
much
tall.
Tyson's deteriorated in
That's
the
the
last 2
thing.
years. We
We
don't know.
need to see him fight 2 quick fights. He should fight Mark Demori. I'm
Oh
joking,
dear.
of course, but
Or
he
Arnold the
needs
Cobra.
Arnold the Cobra. Yeah, Jesus
Or maybe
Christ.
we might got to see the David Haye Tyson Fury fight we always wanted to see 8 years
That
ago.
would that for me would be gold. But Tyson Fury has said he'll never entertain it. And to be
Okay,
honest with
but
you,
you don't think,
David
uh,
Haye's injury
but
record.
you don't think that Joshua would dare go down the David Haye route, do you? If Bellew lost it, I mean, obviously that
Yeah,
would be a big money fight. That would be a big money fight, wouldn't
they'd
it?
do that. They would absolutely do that fight in a heartbeat.
But won't
Uh,
that fight sell better than the Joseph Parker fight,
don't know. Not
Joshua?
not really, because Parker was a champion, so
Yeah.
they were
But what I'm
selling.
saying, in this country, in people's minds, when they see David Haye, some people still think of the David Haye of 10 years ago.
Sure, but
If that did, I mean,
I'm looking here, right, at the card. UK, United Kingdom Sky Box Office, USA Showtime, Panama RPC Channel 4, Latin America Canal Space, Poland TVP Sport, France SFR Sport.
yeah.
I don't think they
But
could sell David
yeah,
Haye to as many countries.
but if Joshua was to fight Haye, it would be the easiest £1 million money he's ever made in a long time.
It, he
Easy,
would
it'd
make
be easy.
he'd make good money from that fight, but I
He,
think
he, he
it would leave a bad taste in British boxing's fans'
because
mouth.
Haye's completely shot and David Haye hasn't been good for 10 years
Sure, but
or whatever it was.
when David Haye beats Bellew, the WBC are going to rank him highly, because Bellew is highly ranked in the WBC, which actually means David Haye is more likely to get like a shot at Wilder, because
But there's no way. Yeah,
I imagine
there's no
Wilder would.
way.
Hang on a minute. I imagine Wilder would love an easy defense against David Haye too.
Dear me, it would be a blood. It'd be a
It would
slaughter.
be a bloodbath, but he would. I think it's the kind of fight Deontay Wilder would take because it's a name.
Hay couldn't even beat Char now, as he is. He's that bad now.
It's an interesting one. I think he might. It all depends. It's just a guessing game with David Hay. Is he even going to be able to get in the ring? Is he going to snap his Achilles jumping over the ring, jumping over the ropes? You just don't know. Is he going to slip in the shower like Carl Frampton did and bust up his eye?
David Hay is like a China doll,
Is he going
like a
to?
Ferrari.
What
You
what
only
was
get him out. Okay?
what was the last one he did? Did he slip on the stairs?
He slipped on the steps and saw his
Yeah.
bicep. Bicep.
How do you tear your bicep falling down the stairs?
I don't know. I think David Hay's tissue muscle. If you took an X-ray of his
it's
tissue,
literally deteriorating in rapid speed.
be like
You know?
paper, be
Yeah,
like
man.
ripping paper.
Fucking hell, I agree. It's like
There
rice
is something
paper, not even paper, rice paper.
There is other stuff next week. That other
Yes.
fights I sent you.
Yes, yes. I'll bring them up. We are going to discuss those. We have got Lara versus Hurd and Truax versus DeHale. Now, for me, this is bizarre. Surely DeHale's shoulder is not fixed this quickly. What do you think about this?
I think he's making a big mistake, and it could cost him his career.
It's bizarre. It can't be right by now, can it? Like,
No.
He had surgery on it, then it was still shot for the fight. I mean, maybe it's all right. Maybe they're good to go. When was the fight? 4 months ago.
Oh,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe you can heal in 4 months, but it does feel a bit quick. It may be worth, it might have been sensible to take another 2 months, but they've got the fight. When they've got the fight, hopefully they can win. Hopefully James's shoulder is okay, but it is going to be a worry considering, it's not even been 6 months since he looked that terrible in the last fight.
Crazy, isn't it?
And the other fight that I mentioned there, that is an interesting fight. Lara versus Hurd.
Unification, isn't it?
Good fight, that one, man. Not sure which way I'm going. I don't rate Hurd that much, but Lara is boring as. I mean, I like Lara. He's a good boxer, but to fight fans, they find him boring as fuck.
They don't understand boxing.
Sure, but the problem is that can swing the judges, as we saw. We've seen that in certain fights. I'm going to lead towards Lara. I think he's the more skilled. I think he's the better boxer. But Hurd might be the bigger money guy on the home show, and I don't know. They might well give it to him. It's one of those things.
It's a strange old game, isn't it, boxing?
It is indeed. Lara is a bit low work rate, low output. And so if he's low output against Hurd, they're not going to give him too many rounds, are they? They're going to try and...
not at all.
So that's my worry, is that he's low output. So hopefully he's not. Hopefully he's changed up. He comes in and he throws 5 or 10 more punches around would do it. And I think he'd probably cruise to a points victory. That's my prediction for the fight. But anything can happen.
Yeah. Was there any more funny news that you've seen this week? There was a picture you posted online to me of Lucas Brown.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny. That was so harsh, but it's so funny. Someone posted that in Britain's boxing Facebook group. Shout out to them. I thought that was really funny. Just them laying sprawled on. It does look like they're having a nice little sleep in the sun. But
it's just hilarious.
I'm looking at it again now. It's fucking quality. That is. I do like that. It's a good Photoshop as well. I saw somebody post Amir Khan's knockout where his head's rested up against the pillar as well, and it looks exactly the same as the David Price knockout. It's quite scary, actually. Their body's like in the exact same position. It's funny. In terms of funny boxing news, I heard Lemieux wants to step in to face GGG again, but
Oh, for God's sake.
nobody wants to
Oh,
see Lemieux fight GGG, do they?
oh, no, not really. No, I don't.
People are having a go at Billy Joe Saunders for not piping up, but obviously he signed the fight with Martin Murray and he has a contract. And so if he was to break his contract with Martin Murray and fight Canelo, he'd have to fight GGG. Sorry, he'd have to pay Murray his purse still, and I don't think Frank Warren's got that sort of money to throw away. So I don't think Billy Joe Saunders can fight GGG right now. I think he's got to get the Murray fight out of the way. Sadly,
Is the Triple G fight, fight's been cancelled, hasn't it?
essentially, it looks like it has been cancelled. It still hasn't been officially cancelled. Let me check. But it essentially has been cancelled. Everybody's talking about it being cancelled. Yeah. I don't see how Canelo GGG can be saved. It died. Yeah,
very
it's
sad, isn't it?
not really. No, I'm quite happy to see cheaters get punished.
But do you know what I mean? I wanted to see the rematch. Do you know what I mean? I badly wanted to see it. I'm not going to see it.
I do and I don't. I have quite an ethical concern for the sport at this point. I think boxing is going to turn into cycling unless we take a strong stance where nobody cares who wins because everybody knows they're all cheating. And I think if we don't make a strong statement now, there's a lot of people who already think like that about boxing. And if you don't try and turn it around, it could be lost forever. So in many ways, I'm kind of happy the fight isn't happening. I think it would have been very bad for boxing.
Crazy. Can't win. I mean, if the
I get your
WBC
point.
had their way, the fight would go ahead.
For sure. I think so. For sure. They want the money from the sanctioning fee.
Oh, they're just greedy fuckers.
That's the problem, man. That's the problem. I don't want money to dictate the sport. I want fair play and ethics to be a big part. And if you can't ban a guy because he makes too much money for the sport is already dead. And so I'm glad that this fight has fallen apart in some ways. I don't think it should happen. It's not a good thing.
If Don King was in charge, bro,
oh, it would have happened.
Definitely go ahead.
100%. If it was, if it was
Sorry.
20 years ago, they would have just pushed this under the. They wouldn't have even told the press about it, in my opinion.
I mean, I watched a documentary regarding the IBF and Don King from
1999. Yes,
it's
fascinating.
I remember watching it as a kid. I'm thinking this guy's murdered 2 people. Yeah, he's ripped so many people off. How he's still alive and no one ever bumped him off. I'll never know.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where it gets even fucking crazier. Bermain Stavern is still signed to Don King.
Why?
Don King. I don't know, because Don King has sued Bermain Stavern and Bermain Stavern has sued Don King as well. So it's fucking weird. Don King still has quite a few fighters on the books who he has previously sued or been sued
if he
by.
Was starting out today,
he'd be in jail
by now. If he'd started out, but no one would put it with shit like from him.
He'd be in jail for fraud many times over. He's a funny guy though, isn't he? Like, you can't. Some of the stories about him are just unbelievable. Like, some people are not. Go on then. Go on.
Some people are not.
They're just not right, are they? They're just sick. Like, they just don't care about other human beings. They only care about themselves.
You know Don King's a fucking arsehole. I hate the guy. He ripped many people off. He ripped off, what's his name? Tim Witherspoon. Tim Witherspoon.
He ripped off Mike Tyson.
Something like a million. And do you know how much Witherspoon had left at the end of the week after he?
Oh, I think it was like 45,000.
£45,000 for WBA.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
It's a joke, isn't it?
Yeah. He ripped off everybody, bro. Shannon Briggs, Mike Tyson. He's ripped off. If you can think of a famous boxer from the 80s.
He ripped Ali off. He ripped
really as well. Wow.
Yeah, because he promoted the Ali
Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah. he promoted that, and he promoted the one Fuller in Manila, which was
Thriller in
expensive.
Manila, yeah.
So the fact that he's gone back, and even Ali,
Wasn't
Ali,
wasn't
he probably
wasn't Frank Warren involved in that in some way?
he was in '99 when Mike. You won't remember this, but Mike Tyson came over to Britain in '99. Do you remember that? Or
No,
you're
but
probably too young to remember.
I'm a bit
And
too
he
young.
fought.
No, I do remember when he fought in Manchester.
Yeah, and basically
Yeah.
Don King was working with Frank Warren.
Right.
You know,
But
it's
didn't Frank Warren have something to do with the? I swear he talks about the Thriller in Manila like he was part of it, but I can't remember.
no. He would have been what? God, he would have been about 30 then. So he had nothing to do with it, that fight.
Right.
No.
No idea.
But I mean, and then people like also with Eddie Hearn, he gets a raw deal. He's done nothing but good for the sport in this country.
I agree. He's pretty strict on drug cheats as well, so
He's a
that's
good
always
man.
been
He's a
good.
good man.
You've never
He knows
seen
his boxing, and he's true to his word. You know, more or less.
touch wood. I've never seen a fighter fail a drugs test on a Sky Sports show. He's had fighters that have failed drugs test in the past on other shows, but he's never had someone fail a test after one of his shows. It's quite interesting.
Crazy.
It's quite
We shall
impressive.
do a podcast on boxing promoters at some point.
Indeed. There's some good ones out there. There's some bad ones out there, and there's some evil ones out there, like Don King.
If I met him, you know what? He's one guy that should have been knocked off, in my opinion. I don't care if.
Hey, nah, you
sorry.
Can't be calling for the death of people on here because he's still alive, isn't
Mate,
he?
I tell you what, mate.
Is he still alive? No.
Bastard's still alive,
Yeah, Don King is still alive. No, it's all a comedy act. We're not issuing death threats on this channel. That's not what's happening here.
I am.
No,
no,
you're not. You're not. We're not. We do not condone the killing of Don King. If it were to happen, we might laugh, but we don't want it.
He killed 2 people in cold blood on the street, so we can laugh about it.
Sure. We can laugh, but I wouldn't be. I would not encourage anybody to take violence against Don King. That would not be a nice idea. He's probably still rich enough to have some bodyguards anyway, so
right,
be careful.
Have you seen anything else in the boxing news this week that you've seen?
Dillian Whyte versus Kubrat Pulev. We talked about that. That's fucking dull.
Let me see if there's anything else.
And I don't think it's a dull fight. I think it would actually be a really good fight if White was to fight Pulev. But I think it's dull because Pulev doesn't want the AJ fight. So why do you keep putting him in positions to be mandatory for the AJ fight? He's turned it down twice.
In boxing scene to see if there's anything that's taken my mind.
Sure, we can have a quick read through. I think we powered through stuff a little bit. I'll tell you what I'll do quickly. I'm going to bring up the rest of the boxing because I think there's more boxing next weekend that we haven't talked about. Oh, there's nothing on Sky Sports boxing-wise, I don't think. But we do have...
Manny Pacquiao versus Matisse deal for July the 14th. Apparently.
I've heard that, but I'm not too excited yet. I believe it is happening, but so many Pacquiao fights have been made in like Saudi Arabia, Philippines, Malaysia, Dubai, and they never happen. And so this one, I want to wait for a press conference before I truly believe that this is happening. Because if it is happening, that's not a bad fight. Both are a little bit past it, but you know, it's a tough fight for Pacquiao because Matisse has knockout power for sure, and knockout power is the last thing that leaves a fighter.
Definitely.
De Hale versus Truex. I can't see what else is on the card that night, but it's in Las Vegas. It's in America, so it's probably not. It's probably not any English fighters. It's probably a bit of an American undercard.
There is one more thing I've seen in boxing. WB president explains why Canelo cannot be found guilty of doping.
I saw this. This was ridiculous. I didn't even get his reason why. Can you actually find his reason in the article?
No.
He didn't really get. The title of the article says, "I've got a really good reason why he cannot be banned," and then in the article, at no point does he say why. So,
The,
sort of
the
clickbait.
article should read: WBC president has licks Canelo's ass because he is a golden poster child from Mexico for the WBC organization. That's what it should read.
It's a very odd statement to come out with why he cannot be banned. Well, no, he can be banned. Definitely. Everyone can be banned if they get caught cheating. So if you say he cannot be banned, it just sounds. I think it might be a. I know Perez speaks English, but he's not from an English. English is not his first language. And so maybe what he means to say is he can't be banned for this offence. But just saying he cannot be banned for doping, it sounds like you mean he can never be banned for doping, so he can just do what the fuck he wants. That's what it's. It's such a stupid statement to make. So I hope they clarify that or reword it because right now it sounds like they've given Canelo immunity. Like he can just take drugs and dope and
If
he
he was
won't get
any other
banned.
nationality, they would be licking his ass, unless it was Mayweather.
Possibly. I don't really know. I think the WBC are pretty corrupt towards South American fighters in some ways. I think they favour Mexican fighters quite strongly. But I don't want to call them completely biased. Uh, their headquarters is in Mexico City. Their president is Mexican. The founder of it was Mexican.
Yeah.
And
And his dad,
so,
and the
you
fact that
know,
his dad just inherited the job, which he probably isn't qualified for.
that's
So,
another thing. You know, it is a bit weird. I do feel like we need a multinational governing body. I don't see why a governing body of boxing should be based in one country. Surely that is open for cheating, corruption, bias. If like, why would you be a world title but you only have your headquarters in one country? That just seems a bit odd.
it's a bit off, isn't it?
It is a bit odd. It is a bit odd. I've always felt that. I've always felt that the IBF they're American, right?
Mm.
Um,
Nevada, yeah.
yeah. Then you've got the WBO,
There's
which
WBO,
is
which is Puerto Rican.
yeah, which is weird.
And then
And
you've
then the
got
WBA,
is Panama, I think. I'm not really sure. Double check.
yeah, I think you're actually right, man. Which is
Panama, I don't know why it's in Panama.
even probably tax.
Let me
He
double
hasn't.
check. So,
It
yeah,
has.
that's right.
It is in
Panama.
Panama, yeah.
And
Uh,
the WBO, like I said, was in Puerto Rico. Is that correct?
WBO, yeah, it is indeed.
Not Puerto Rico, is it? It's not Puerto Rico, is it?
Yeah, San Juan,
Oh, it is
Puerto
Puerto Rico.
Rico. Yeah.
And
So
the
you,
WBC
so
Mexico.
hang on. So they're all in and around South America.
Yeah.
What the
So the
fuck?
IBF American, and then don't
W
ask me why.
WBA,
WBC
WBO, and WBC are all South American belts.
or
That,
Central American.
or Central
It's
American,
weird, isn't it?
sure. That is really weird. Why is there not an Indian one or an I don't
A
know.
British one. I believe at one time there was a British one. You know, we're talking
That
like
would
the 40s.
that would make sense because we are the fucking home of boxing. We did invent the
And then
goddamn sport.
and then back in the days of the 30s and 40s, they had the USA World Title or the
Yeah, yeah.
NYSCK or something. I don't know.
NCASF or something like that. Yeah, I
I don't
know
know
the
what
one.
it means.
I
And
know
then
the
you
one.
had an EBU title, which was classed as a world title back then.
Wow, wow. How times have
Because
changed.
that was originally just, a world sanctioned body. I know it's crazy, but it's
That
just the
is
way it works
crazy.
out.
The EBU was a world title. That is funny.
But we're going back, like I say, to the 30s and to the 20s and
Sure,
40s.
sure. Before they added so many titles like they have
And then
now.
we had the WBU, which was based in Britain originally, run by an Australian, but based in Britain.
This is getting
original W.
this is getting
I know.
confusing. There's
Then
too
you've got
many of them.
the WBU, which is a German WBU version, which because the original WBU went into liquidation. Then
Right,
then somebody took over it and it was run in America. I think
right.
2008. Then
That's
the
crazy.
German version. So you've got two WBU world titles. Then you've got a World Boxing Foundation and a World Boxing Federation. The World Boxing Federation is Australian. The World Boxing Foundation is, I believe, American.
Jesus
It's all messed up.
Christ. Why is there so many? There's too many. It's insane. What you've just said would put off most casual fans from boxing.
But
They'd
the thing
just
is,
be
the
like,
fact that I know
fuck
that,
that.
that's pretty sad, really, isn't it? The fact that I know
No,
all
it's
that, you know.
good to know because it's history. It's part of the history of boxing, but
But
it's
originally
extraordinary.
the WBA, I believe, or the WBC, I think was the oldest title, and then the WBA
The
came off it. I'm not sure.
WBC
I
is
probably got it wrong.
definite. No, the WBC is definitely the oldest, most prestigious belt. I know
And
that.
then the WBA splintered off from it, and
Right.
then the IBF splintered off from the WBA,
And then the
and
WBU splintered off from the IBF. Yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous at this
and
point.
the WBO was just created in 1988.
And
So
now we've
it's
got the
probably my
IBO
age.
and the fucking Intercontinental. Oh my god.
The
I'm gonna
IBO
have
came
to
out
make a
in
video.
92.
Gonna have to make a video. I'm gonna have to make a change.org petition to get rid of some of these titles. I
But
don't.
there's about 25 different sanctioning bodies for world titles. You know, there's only four
Yeah,
or five majors. You know.
it's a bit much, you know. Like I can follow the four main belts.
And the
Any, I,
IBO.
and I can follow the British and the Commonwealth. I can follow the way up, but fucking hell, the amount of like intercontinental US there's like USBFA, the sanctioning body. There's just so many of them. To be fair to the WBU though, Ricky Hatton, George Foreman, Thomas Hearns,
WBU champion.
yeah, Johnny Nelson.
Hatton made 16.
Huh.
Uh, Johnny Nelson was the WBU heavyweight champion in
Yeah,
1999. He beat a Russian geezer.
wow.
And so basically, yeah, the fact that Johnny Nelson won the belt, he was even WBF heavyweight champion.
Mm.
The WB Ricky Hatton made 16 defences of that title.
Wow.
Enzo McAnally made 9 defences of the title. Because at one time the WBU was obviously, you remember in the early 2000s, don't you? That title was actually, used mainly in Britain. We had a lot of world champions of it.
Wow.
Old
So
people like Takalu.
the prior WBU had a golden period between 96 and 2004 when the
Yeah.
titles were always shown were live on satellite or terrestrial television.
But
After the
then in
death of
2006,
the founder, the organization fell to the status of dormant and everyone had to give they all became vacant belts and then the WBU went liquidated. That's fucking crazy. Imagine if the IBF just went bankrupt.
but it's crazy. But looking back at the history of the WBU, I remember in, like I say, obviously in the late 90s, early 2000s, I remember they were advertising the WBU and WBF unification. I'm thinking, looking at it, and I laughed back then. I thought, how can this be? How can you have two sanctioning bodies that are not even up to the standard that are easier to win than British titles? How can you have a
Yeah,
world
that's
champion that's easier to win than a British champion? It makes no sense.
well, the way unifications work is that the two sanctioning bodies have to agree that the belts can be unified. And so the WBU and WBF, to make themselves probably
Didn't have
more
mandatories.
popular,
Never had mandatories.
sure, but to make themselves more popular, they probably thought, we'll put our belts together to unify.
But,
It's a bit of a cheeky
yeah.
way of gaining popularity, but I mean, they didn't last
Yeah.
very long, did they?
But,
Imagine if the IBF went bankrupt tomorrow. An
it'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be fucking weird.
But I remember when the IBF was created in, I think it was 80. The first heavyweight IBF champion was Larry Holmes. He was given the belt. They just gave him the IBF belt in 85. Don't ask me why.
That is peculiar.
Because he gave up the WBC belt he'd had for 8 years, and then they just gave him the IBF belt, which I thought was a bit odd.
That is very peculiar. Why would you just give someone a belt? You should make the
I
two
don't know
best
because
guys.
he was the number one champion at the time.
Hang on.
So there's
Who
then
did you say was the? Did you say he was the first champion of the IBF? No.
IBF World Heavyweight Champion was
World.
Larry
Right.
Holmes. He was
Right.
given
Right.
the belt.
Right. Right. Because the first IBF champion was Marvin Camel.
Yeah, he was a cruiserweight. Yeah,
Yeah, he was the cruiserweight one. Yeah.
and was that 88 or 87 or 85?
I think it was 84 or 85, something like that.
Yeah, and then the
Before my
heavyweight
time.
belt. You
Before
see, I
my
mean,
time.
I only learnt all this about 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I say, I don't remember the 80s.
That's such a weird thing to do, man. So Larry Holmes purposefully. So what you're saying is,
He
if he,
surrendered the WBC belt, and
if
they
he hadn't,
offered him the belt.
so if he hadn't have done that, the IBF would never really have been seen as a big deal.
No, because he was a big deal at the time in
Exactly,
85,
exactly, yeah.
and that's why they gave him the belt. He was like the equivalent of what Joshua is today. The world number one.
Well,
It's crazy, isn't it?
I'm glad we got the IBF, but at the
Then the
same time,
WBO belt was created. The first WBA champion in '89 was Francis Diamani, and he's an
Yeah.
Italian guy. He wasn't anything special.
yeah. I need to look up the history of some of these belts a little bit more over time. There's so much history to a lot of them, but there's also some of them are so new, and you think they've got a long history. Like some people, casual boxing fans, probably think the WBO is like a long
40, 50-year-old thing. But it was
right.
not.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you look at it, there's only about probably 13 champions, am I right? Or 16, 17 champions.
Can't be more than that. It hasn't been around that long,
No,
so
it's about 25. But it was passed around like a hot potato.
yeah, that's true.
2000.
That is true.
And also, if you look at the IBF, I think they've got about Joshua's like the 15th champion or something, which isn't a lot.
No, it's pretty small actually.
Yeah, I think I've overgone today.
Overdone. Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm still interested in what we're talking about, but
right, we'll keep going. But with these belts, like all the history of them, I mean, the first IBO champion, I can't remember who the first. I think it was a Danish guy.
The first IBO champion. Let's have a look. I can look that up.
World heavyweight champion. I think it was Danielson, or he was the second champion. I can't remember. Or Nielsen, sorry, not Patrick Nielsen.
It can't be Patrick Nielsen.
Beat Larry Holmes. Nielsen, a Danish guy who fought
Brian Nielsen. Brian Nielsen.
That's it. Yeah, he was the first one, or was he the third? I can't
remember. He was actually the fifth.
Fifth. Who was the first?
Patrick. No, Pinkland Thomas.
Yeah, he's a former WBC champion.
Yeah.
That lost his title to Trevor Berbick, who then Mike Tyson beat.
Yes, who competed from 78 to 93. So he had the belt right. He had the IBO right at the end of his career. And then you had Lionel Butler,
who I've never really heard of.
Daniel Nicholson, Jimmy Thunder from
I've heard of him. Yeah,
from New Zealand. He's a New Zealander, but he also held an Australian citizenship, so he had the Australian heavyweight title. So he's both. He's both. Daniel Nicholson was an Olympian. He never won a regular belt. He only won the IBO. Lionel Butler, he fought Lennox Lewis in '95, but that was his best. That was his most sort of famous thing.
Oh dear.
I think then you had Brian Nielsen, who won the IBO. He had a really good amateur career, but didn't do very much as a pro. Then you had Lennox Lewis, who won it twice, I think.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes, he did.
Did Rahman had it? Rahman had it, didn't he?
Right, yeah, in the middle of Lennox Lewis's 2 wins, yeah, Rahman had it.
This IBO belt should be used for people like your Furies and your Dillian Whites, I believe. It should be a second-tier world title.
For sure. Attaching it to the Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury fights or the Klitschko's, what that is, it gives the belt prestige, but it means that it's not fought for very often, and because these top guys don't fight as often as the up and comers. So your Andy Ruiz Juniors, your Huey
People like that.
Furies, yeah, those are the guys you want to see fighting for it. But I don't know. It's nice to see it around the waist of a real champion as well.
I think it should be, a title for up and comers. I don't believe it should be attached to any unifications or anything like that.
I agree in some ways. That would be the
It's
best
like a
thing.
junior world title.
It is really. It's like a stepping
But I
stone.
mean, like you say, the IBO don't have mandatories.
No, but some of their champions right now are pretty good. So you've got Anthony Joshua
Triple G.
at heavyweight. At light heavyweight, you've got Igor Mikhalkin, who's not actually terrible fighter. He's a
got
Russian
Kyron
guy.
Morat.
You had George Groves, but obviously he dropped it. Gennady Golovkin, Erislandy Lara, and Mohamed Mimoun, who was the guy who beat Sam Eggington. He's not a bad fighter. And then you kind of, some of the other, Rousey Warren, right down at bantamweight. Yeah, he's not terrible. So there's some all right champions in that weight class, but like you say, there's no mandatories. So it just depends on whoever the champion wants to fight.
But the fact that George Groves just dropped it like a bad habit, I thought, why would you do that when the other champions don't bother?
To mock Chris Eubank Jr.
It's ridiculous. Eubank will just fight for it again. Eubank is the mandatory for it, I believe.
I know, but that's people. Boxing fans will make a mockery of that too. It was a total diss at Eubank. It was. I think if he'd have beaten Callum Smith for the IBO, he'd have kept the IBO. But it was a diss. It was definitely a diss. But
I'd like to see Eubank win it again, and then he can fight more Reynolds Quinlans and we can all laugh at him again.
Oh man, I hope not. I'd rather see Eubank go and train at Roger Mayweather's gym and look for a serious world title. If he fights IBO level stuff, he can do that. He can make okay money, but he will never get that. He'll never be respected when he retires. Unless
what level would you say Reynolds Quinlan was? British level?
Commonwealth. Commonwealth.
Jesus. So Eubank bypassed all the British titles and everything just to win the IBO after he won. He was a former WBA interim champion as well.
He was mandatory for Daniel Jacobs at one point, but thank God they didn't put him in that fight. He would have lost that fight badly. I thought at the time he would have won, but after seeing Daniel Jacobs fight GGG and after seeing Eubank fight Groves,
the fact that he won a WBA interim title 3 years ago, it's crazy.
Yeah, and still hasn't been a world champion, he's been in one world title fight, which he got handily beaten in. Really, if you.
But the WBA interim thing is a minor world title.
Yeah, but he was number one for Jacobs' belt, wasn't he? He could have got that fight, but he said to Eddie Hearn, "Sign me the GGG fight," and then Eddie Hearn did that, and he didn't want it. So,
dearie me, his career he's not been handled properly. Eubank's career.
No,
and I blame his dad.
If you read Eubank's version of events, it probably reads pretty good, right? But if you actually read the boxing hardcores and how they see it, it's not been ideal. He has taken wrong turns at pivotal points. I think him not staying with Adam Booth was a really big deal.
Oh, definitely.
If he'd have been with Adam
Booth,
got talent. If he'd have been with Adam Booth for the last 3 years, he'd have done a lot better in that Groves fight. And plus, Adam Booth used to be Groves' trainer, so he would have known the game plan to beat Groves with. So there's many things that Eubank has done wrong along the way that lead him to where he is now. Do you see that picture of him in that giant fur coat the other day?
Oh, what a twat, yeah.
And everyone's just like, yeah, it's a nice coat, but you're a mug. And it's like, that is the fair point. Like, it is a nice coat. No one's denying that, but you are a mug. So,
but he's made everybody thinks he's a laughingstock now, and that can't be nice for a fighter to be.
No, that's the problem. But he's done it to himself in some ways, man. walk around big fancy houses like you're going to buy them and you're going to win this fight easily, and then you lose quite convincingly. I don't feel much sympathy for him. He hasn't learned from
I
his own
just don't.
mistakes.
He hasn't got. He hasn't got the talent his dad's got, and that's visible. And he never will.
He hasn't got the talents his dad's got, but moreover, worse than that, he doesn't have the discipline or mindset his dad had.
Thing is, Eubank didn't. It's not like Eubank had to struggle growing up, is it?
That's
Like
exactly
his
what
dad
I'm.
did.
He did
That's the
have a
problem.
he did have a tough life, and he was thrown to the wolves a little bit, from what I understand, to counterbalance the
Yeah.
silver spoon. But
Yeah.
it's not the same motivation. Eubank Senior had nothing, and he had to do it to get anywhere.
Junior hasn't got the motivation.
Junior,
I don't think he wants it.
why? Yeah, Junior is probably already a millionaire, and he probably doesn't actually need to fight again.
But he's a millionaire.
That's what I said.
To do with some of his talent, he's got the talent that he made it, but a lot of it is to do with his dad's work, hasn't it? Isn't it?
Marketing.
The reason
For sure.
Let's be honest. His dad put him in this position, but he's mainly got the shots he's got in boxing because of his dad's net. But he's also had talent as well. You know, he's got talent.
He's got talent. He's got skill, but he doesn't listen. He doesn't
He thinks
listen.
all he has to do is listen to his dad or watch a video of his dad, and it's him.
I don't even think. I've got to be honest with you. I don't even think he thinks that. I think he just thinks he's good enough to do what he wants, when he wants, and still win. I think that's evident. Oh, what are you doing there, bro?
Oh, nothing. I was just sorry.
Yes. Stop now. He just doesn't listen to the right advice. You could see that when Ronnie Davis was trying to tell him stuff in the Billy Joe Saunders fight. You could see that in the Groves fight. They're almost scared to tell him what to do. I wonder if Ronnie Davis and Eubank Senior have also bought the hype that they've been selling. Maybe
they have.
Maybe.
And they fooled a lot of people. I mean, do you know what I mean? Even including me.
I think they fooled themselves as well. I think they even fell for it themselves, because you can get wound up in that. You can get caught up in it. But Eubank Jr. did nothing to address his faults. He can't box from range. He's got slow footwork. He doesn't have defences. And if he doesn't change any of that, the top guys at world level, elite level, are going to find him out again. He can come back. He can change it. But I worry. He's 28, 29 now. He's boxed that way his whole career. And so...
I mean, maybe he should box for a British title again, or Commonwealth or European. You know, European belt again.
European seems sensible. I wouldn't go for the IBO again, because he'll be mocked if he wins that again. Even if it's against a good fighter, he will get mocked relentlessly, because.
But you know he's going to sign the fight for it. It's pretty obvious he's going to do it. You know,
maybe I would advise against it, because it's I would even tell the IBO not to do it, because it weakens their belt. If you have a guy who's just coming off a loss, how can he fight for a world title?
It's a joke, isn't it?
That's not right.
But also, ITV haven't still got a deal with him, have they?
Maybe they do. I think they do.
Well, for them, they're not going to be able to sell any pay-per-view based off his last fight.
No. Nope. No one will buy IBO match for pay-per-view.
I mean, really? Frank wouldn't have him again, would he?
Nope.
Will Hearn?
Maybe. Possibly. Hearn's a money-focused guy, and so he doesn't really care about ego.
Hearn needs to basically, if he does, he needs to reevaluate his trainers, reevaluate the matchmaking route.
That's the thing. Whoever he signs with at this point is going to have to lay down very firm rules. You have to have your dad's not allowed in your corner. You need a trainer. You need a cut man. You need an end swell in your corner. You fucking moron. Sorry, but
And you have to have a trainer. Yeah. Well, he is a moron. I mean, he was an internet fighter, like Eddie Hearn said. That's
that
what he
is
was.
true. That is true. It has to be said. Anyway, man, I'm getting very hot here with no fan on.
Okay, mate.
So we'll wrap it up here. Uh, there's some good boxing next week. Obviously, Hurd versus Lara. And the other one, of course, is Truax versus De Hale rematch. So we'll be back next week to discuss those fights and any upcoming fights from the week after. Please leave a like if anyone can. That always helps. Subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. Peace out.
Take care, people.